Welcome back to Self-Made, the podcast all about how to grow and scale your cleaning business. I'm your host, Jason, and today we're going to be talking about the topic of goal setting, why it's important, and how you can implement a goal setting strategy in your business and actually realize your goals. So this is something that I never really got into as a business owner myself. To me, it's always kind of fallen into that woo-woo hocus pocus category of business where it's like, there's all that talk about manifestation and all that stuff. If you just write it on paper, you're going to actualize it and it's going to come to you. Now, there is an element of truth in that. And to put it simply, you can never really achieve something without knowing what you want to achieve. Without setting a goal, the only way you achieve things is by things just happening. So when you actually write things down on paper, not only does it get the wheels in your head spinning, it gets you thinking about how you're going to achieve that goal, what sort of metrics are involved and what KPIs you need to hit and how you're going to get there. But you also set an end goal. You set an end point for where you want to be. So without setting these goals, you may have desires and dreams like, oh, I want to have a $1 million a year business. But what are the little milestones along the way that are going to get you to that end goal? These are all the things that you need to note down. It's not just about putting a monetary goal on paper. It can also be about experiences that you'd like to have. It can be about wins you'd like to have in your business. It can be things like, one day I want to see one of my company cars driving on the road in a city that I'm visiting. It can be, it can just be a monetary goal. It can be I want to make so much a year. It can be I want to make $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month. It can be whatever. But the point is, you can't achieve your goals if you don't have any. So it's a good practice of just putting your thoughts onto paper, setting your goals out, and then reverse engineering your way to it. I've done this for my business in a couple of ways recently. I actually set a goal of I want to take a month off from my business. And immediately I'm like, okay, how the hell do I do this? Because I've never really thought about it until I said it out loud and until I wrote it down into my note-taking app that I want to take a month off from my business. That is like a really big goal for me short term. I didn't actually start thinking about how I'm going to get there until I said that. And then I started looking at it on a micro level. I'm like, what little things need to happen to get me there? And so I'm thinking about what systems I need to put in place for my soon-to-be manager, what systems I need to put in place for my staff when I'm not around. What things do I know that my manager isn't going to know that I need to put out onto paper for her so that she knows? What things do I need to document? What could possibly go wrong if I take a month off from business? What are the contingencies and the redundancies I'm going to put in place in order to get here? And over the past couple of weeks, I've been thinking about all of this and I've been planning it all out. And I'm already in the position where I'm pretty confident that when I take a month off, everything's going to be fine. Whereas if I just said to myself one day, yeah, I kind of want to take a break from my business. And then one day I just remember I said that once upon a time and I take a month off and then it all just falls apart because I had no idea how I was actually going to pull it off. When you have these goals written down, it gives you a very clear vision of how you're going to get there. And it makes you reverse engineer your way to it. And another thing with goals is you want to set big goals. You want to set really big, audacious goals. You may have heard this concept from Jim Collins. He writes a book called Good to Great. He's got a couple other ones, but that's a really good book that I've read, and I apply a lot of the principles from that book in my business. He talks about the concept of big, hairy, audacious goals, a BHAG or a BAG, whatever you want to call it. And the idea of that is if you say you want to make $1 million next year, and right now you're only making $100,000, and next year you make $300,000, you've only achieved 30% of your goal, which in theory doesn't sound like much, and that sounds like a failure. But what have you just done? You've gone from $100,000 a year to $300,000 a year. That's a pretty big step, right? And you would be happy with that. So that's the point. You want to set big goals that on paper seem almost impossible to you. And if you only achieve a fraction of that, you're making a lot of progress and it's going to be amazing for you and your business. You need to be really consistent with this too. Consistency is key in all aspects of a business. I think about it like this. If how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if your car is a mess, your room is probably a mess. Your house is probably a mess. Your pantry is probably a mess. And in turn, your business is probably a mess because you're not disciplined enough to do these things properly. When you do one thing, you probably do everything else the same way. So have a look at this in your own life. Is your car a mess? If so, what does your house look like? What does your business look like? What are all the things that you do that you know are bad? And how do they kind of tie into the other things in your business that are slipping? I used to be very lazy and undisciplined, and it was really starting to show in my business. There were a lot of cracks forming. I was really poor at following up. I was really inconsistent with that. Just my leads were, I was getting so many leads in and I just was not following up. And then I looked at other areas of my life and it's like, I'm not going to the gym as much as I used to. I'm not being consistent with that. I'm not being consistent with the way I eat. I'm not being consistent with my relationships with people. Everything was just falling apart around me. So I had to start building up smaller habits in order to create these bigger habits and create more discipline for myself. Because it really does affect your business when you have these things in your personal life that you know you're being inconsistent with and you know you're being undisciplined with. So the first step is to create these small habits, because going back to goal setting, you're never going to get where you want to be if you're not consistent. In order to go from 100,000 a year to 1,000,000 a year, it's all about consistency. There's really no secret there. It's just about being relentlessly consistent in your pursuit. You need to be consistent in your advertising, in your hiring, in the creation of systems in your business, in following up, everything, social media. It all has to be consistent. You can't drop the ball in any aspect of your business because it's going to be showing in all other areas. So have a think about this. Do you think that the way that you behave now, both personally and in your business, is positively or negatively affecting your business right now? Do you think that you're on the way to where you want to be in your business? If we had a look at your life's graph, let's just imagine your life had this graph of growth. Would it look like a slow incline, or would it look like a lot of peaks, a lot of valleys, and a lot of flat lines? Were you like me, where you would go to the gym every day, 7 days a week for 3 months and then just suddenly stop because you got sick or something happened, and then you've just immediately halted that growth? You've stunted that growth, and now you're going backwards. And then when we look at that graph, you've gone up and then you've gone straight down and you've plateaued. It's incredible looking back over the last 6 to 12 months, because I've had a lot of explosive growth in my business. My TikTok has blown up. My business has pretty much doubled in revenue and team size and profit. And my whole life in general is just getting so much better. And it's kind of directly correlated with my business growth and vice versa. And just looking back, it's because I broke a lot of vices and started to develop small habits, which turned into bigger habits, which then showed in areas of my business where I was starting to slip away. So I started responding to quotes quicker. Before, I was getting so complacent that I would just, when quotes would come in, I would respond to them when I needed business. But now I respond to quotes straight away. I have a VA who does that now. I respond to job applicants straight away. Whenever we trial people, I'm always emailing them on time, setting the schedule on time, paying people at the same time every day, every week. And everything is just a lot more consistent. And it's funny because it's directly correlated with the growth of my business. And it's just made me a much happier person in general. Like, I wake up at the same time every day with the same energy. I know exactly what I'm going to do that day. I look at my list of goals that I have for that day and for that week and for that month, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know exactly how I'm going to get to where I want to be. And I just have so much more mental clarity, and it makes me feel so much better internally, and it's starting to show externally in my business and my personal life. So goal setting, it's important. You should not compromise on that. Everyone should be writing goals down. You can start with small goals. You can go straight to your bigger goals, but just write stuff down and start figuring out how you want to get there. Start with a monetary goal. Start with how much you want to make, because that's always the first step in business. We're all in business because we want to make more money. That's what it's all about. If you don't make enough money, you can't have the life that you want. You can't support the people that you love, and you can't be a provider. You can't serve. So money is important, and it should be the first step. And then once you've built that business that provides you with the lifestyle that you want and gives you all the freedom and the options and the opportunities, then you can start to develop other goals and other interests. But without the money, you don't really have those options. They say money doesn't buy happiness, but I tell you what it does buy. It buys you options, and it buys you freedom. And when you have those options and that freedom, then you're opening your life up to endless possibility and happiness and real fulfillment. Because at face value, yeah, money doesn't buy you happiness. I'm not happier now because I'm making more money. I'm happier now because I'm more disciplined. I have a business that I love to grow, that I love to run with people that I love. And as a result of my business getting better and bigger, obviously my income increases. But that's really a secondary side effect of this growth now, is the money. The money is on the sideline to me now. It's all about my personal development. And you'll kind of feel that when you get to that point in your business where you're making more money than you ever could have possibly dreamed of, or more money than you were ever happy with. You kind of get to that point where you just want to develop yourself on a personal level, and you get really into the personal development stuff. Because back when I started my business, I was so against all that personal development stuff and all that goal setting and mindset nonsense. But it really is like the standard pathway that any entrepreneur takes. It's like once you've made the money, you start to look at your life and you start to improve yourself, because your body is a temple. You know, you want to take care of your body, your mind, your soul. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your baby, which is your business. And you can't take care of the people around you that you love. So your business is important, and your business is only going to thrive if you yourself are thriving. And in order for you to achieve your goals, make sure you start setting them. With that being said, what I want you to go and do is now, after listening to this, is just go write down 5 goals. Go write down a couple monetary goals. Write a goal of where you want to be, like a holiday that you want to take. Write a goal of something you want to do for someone that you love. And just think of a couple other goals that you think would benefit your life in some sort of way, or your business. And once you've written these goals down, start to think about how you're going to get there. Start to think about all the hurdles you might face on the way to getting those goals, and then reverse engineer. And treat this as a bit of a wake-up call if you're not being consistent and you know it. Because trust me, I've been there. I know what it's like. It's very easy to get complacent and to think about certain tasks in your business as lesser money-making activities. So like posting on social media every day. Yeah, that's not generating you money from day one, and every time you post, it's not getting you a lead or a job applicant. But think big picture. If you do that every day for 100 days, it's going to get you results. If you start running Facebook or Google ads, you're probably not going to get anything for a few days. But if you stick at it for a few weeks, you're going to see results. Consistency really is key. And especially when you're setting goals, you need to be consistent on the pursuit towards those goals. So go set some goals, be consistent in both your business and your personal life. And to pay homage to that famous Tony Robbins quote, which now that I've said it's famous, I don't think I remember it correctly, but I'm going to say it anyway. We often overestimate what we can achieve in a year, but we greatly underestimate what we can achieve in 5 to 10 years. So think about that when you start taking action. It's not going to be an overnight thing. You're not going to see changes straight away. Like if you go to the gym and lift for 3 days, you're not going to have a Brad Pitt body. You're not going to look like Jason Momoa. You're not going to look like Jason Cleans. I'm kidding. Anyone can look like me if you just eat enough Doritos. But yeah, stay consistent, because you'll really be surprised at how much your life can change if you just stick to these core principles and you stay consistent in all areas, even in the areas that you don't think are directly serving you right now in your life and in your business. So anyway, I hope you got some value out of this. I hope this gave you a couple of ideas and you got a couple of nuggets out of this. I'll be back next week with another episode, so stay tuned and I'll see you then. Thanks for listening to another episode of Self-Made.